Welcome to this special home edition of A Closer Look. I'm Karen Myers. Today, we're going to be talking about older youth abuse and how we can help prevent it. Joining me today is Nadia Howe, Chief of Child Protective Services. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
What is older youth abuse and how is it different from youth abuse in general?
Yes, child abuse in general, we're dealing with a caretaker or a parent, whether physically abusing, emotionally abusing, sexually abusing, exposure to domestic violence, substance exposed infants, and concerns of neglect. All of those categories of abuse and neglect are for children that are ages infancy to 17 years old. When we deal with our older youth abuse, we're talking about a age group of adolescents. That age group will focus on 12 to 17 years old.
Now, are you seeing more of these cases because of COVID-19, say, for instance, because more of this age group and children in general are at home and not in school?
Unfortunately, we're not. Child abuse in general right now is significantly underreported. And when we look at reports for our older youth abuse, our teenagers, they're even more underreported. For example, we have teens that are home with their parents due to increased responsibilities. We have
Mhm.
decreased supervision at home. We have teens that are no longer with their coaches and their after school friends or with their other hobbies with children out in the community. At this time, our children are practicing social distancing, the
Mhm.
majority of them, and they're at home trying to deal with this serious situation that we're faced to deal with COVID-19. However, that means our youth aren't around our mandated reporters. They're not around our teachers. They're not around those relatives
Mhm.
that often call the child abuse reporting hotline for concerns of abuse and neglect.
So the low numbers doesn't mean it's not happening. It means those children, unfortunately, are just not in an environment around those, like you just said, that would be the ones to report that abuse.
Oh, correct. It definitely does not mean that it's not happening.
Mhm.
When you have this kind of epidemic that's going on, we're looking at concerns where we have increased stress within our households. So we have
Mhm.
parents that are working two jobs. We have more economic hardships. We have significant concerns with childcare and parents trying to work at
Right.
home and deal with financial hardships. And we all have a lot of domestic issues with relationships right now due to the stress. So
Absolutely.
statistically, with increased stress is increased incidence of abuse and neglect of children, unfortunately.
Now, who is most vulnerable to this type of abuse?
The children that are most vulnerable to this type of abuse, particularly with older youth, are children that already have a mental health issue, children that are, for example, struggling with anxiety disorder or struggling with
Mhm.
depression, children that may have a concern with substance abuse or experiencing with gateway drugs such as marijuana,
Mhm.
children that are already not doing well academically,
Right.
and our teens typically are in school and they are, again, around teachers and they're
Mhm.
around coaches and around people who are seeing these symptoms of withdrawal and these characteristics that we consider that make them vulnerable. However, some of the characteristics I described also just describe a regular teenager.
Right,
Teenagers,
right.
teenagers don't walk around with a sign saying, "I'm being abused and neglected." They're also, out of all the age groups of children, they are not very verbal with a disclosure that they're willing to tell someone that they don't know.
Right.
So typically, our children, our teens, they're also not credible. All those characteristics that I named of adolescents, drug abuse, mental health, concerns with our household, those are all reasons why um, people don't believe.
Right. And they're isolated because of COVID. That doesn't help matters. And not
Correct.
only from those adults that may report it, but they may be more isolated from just their peers and their friends that may be able to assist or someone they can talk to as well, because we're all here in social distancing and everything in that aspect has changed. So
Yes, definitely.
what can someone do if they suspect abuse
Yes.
of
All you
someone
have
they
to do
know?
is suspect abuse and neglect. And you can call any of your local child protective services hotlines. We also have a Virginia reporting hotline that is open 24/7. That's weekends, holidays, building closures. There's always someone there to answer the phone. In addition, we have law enforcement, any of your local precincts, to call and report those concerns of abuse.
So would you like, say for instance, if I as suspected a neighbor perhaps, what would you recommend that I do? Should I reach out to that child or older, youth, or call directly
You would
if I
definitely
suspect it?
call directly, depending on what city you're living in. For
Mhm.
Chesapeake, call our child abuse hotline in Chesapeake, and that would be 382-2020.
Mhm.
And then we have our after hours number you would be directed when you call the 382-2020 number. We would
Okay, and
you also have to think of safety. You always have to remember
right.
safety first. So you do not know what kind of situation that this teen is living in. You don't know if they are willing to talk at this time, and you also don't want to deal with messing up a criminal investigation, because
Absolutely.
some of these situations are linked to our law enforcement, and interviewing children over and over, or even questioning them about the basic concerns may leave them not willing to report.
So leave it to the professionals. That's what you guys are there for.
Right.
Absolutely. So is there a website or somewhere someone can get more information?
Yes, definitely. We have our DSS website. That's
Mhm.
www.dss.virginia.gov. There you can find all types of statistics regarding our
Mhm.
reporting issues. You can also see the decline. When I talk about decline in reporting, I'm referencing before COVID and now. So the reports that were coming in around February, we were looking in
Mhm.
the high 200s, and now they're dropped significantly to 100 and below for just calls coming in of concerns.
And that is not really a good thing under the circumstances. So
Correct.
that's important to note. Well, thank you so much, Nadia, for joining me to talk about this very important topic. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this special home edition of A Closer Look. We'll see you next time.